but I'm tired of being at them. I just want to be me. With that abrupt intro, you're probably wondering who I am. My name is KP, I'm 19 and pansexual. And this right here is my journey to self-discovery in one of the most liberal places in the world. By now I realize not a lot of people understand what pansexuality is. You yourself are probably wondering, what is pansexuality? Aren't you just bisexual? You're just a pervert, that's not nice. And what's your deal? To answer all these questions, let's just go back in time a little bit. Whoa. That's a little too far back. But thinking about it, I probably don't have any actual video footage of me discovering what it means to be pansexual. So let's take a walk through Amsterdam. I, like many people living in a world with internet, and in America with a failure of a sex education system, aka abstinence only, found most of my information about sexuality online. So around the age of 14 or 15, this to me meant scouring Google with obscure questions and finding forums with what could be answers, as well as learning from queer and out personalities on social medias like Tumblr and Twitter, as well as friends who were discovering their own sexuality. When I learned about myself that I didn't quite identify with bisexuality, I didn't know what else was out there for me. Discovering pansexuality opened up a whole new door for me. Now, a lot of people often ask, what's the difference between being bisexual and pansexual? Well, bisexuality is defined as being attracted to the same gender as well as other genders, plural, whereas pansexuality is often noted as being attracted to people regardless of gender. Finding out about pansexuality and finding these small communities online was a very liberating moment for me. But also, growing up in a world where there wasn't much physical space for that kind of sexuality and queerness was a very confining time. One that pushed me to hide my sexuality in the years coming up to my college time. When I joined Michigan State study abroad to Amsterdam, I was very excited because it focused on gender and sexuality. And I thought, going to one of the most liberal places in the world, they must have a lot of spaces where people like me can feel liberated and can find community. And so I went on this journey of self-discovery in one of the most quote-unquote liberal places in the world, not just for me, but to provide resources and information for anyone navigating the field of sexuality. So right now I'm going to download Tinder and Her to see if I can find pansexuals in the area, since I've had not a lot of luck going to gay clubs, queer clubs, all the clubs. So, and I'm going to make sure to put in there that I'm looking for pansexuals for research purposes, like interviewing, because like earlier stated, most people leaning queer in their sexuality found info online, like myself. So by downloading apps meant for social purposes for sexuality and relationships, I thought interviewing pansexuals on there, I'd be more likely to find people my age to give their experiences with sexual discovery. So I downloaded both Tinder and Her. I downloaded Tinder because it's a vastly popular meeting app for people 18 and up, mostly until about the age of 35 or so. Basically, Tinder works by making a profile, and then you swipe a certain way on the screen to like or dislike people. Matches are when two people swipe to like each other. When you're matched, you can then talk to the person. I'm gonna set up Her. And on the app, you can make the preference of liking either men, women, or both, and that makes a difference in who pops up on your screen to swipe. I typed both, and I liked everyone that popped up because with Tinder in the profile, there is no way to know a person's sexuality. Her has a very similar setup, but it's targeted at the queer woman community. So the profile does have sexuality listed as well as gender and pronouns. I found this to make a huge difference because on Tinder, no women really popped up. It was just creepy guys wanting to have sex with me, despite listing in my profile saying that I'm only here for research and to interview pansexuals. Whereas Her isn't just for fucking, but can also be used for community and friendships. It was still hard to find pansexuals on Her, possibly because pansexuality, like bisexuality, is an emerging identity that changes over time with certain societal changes, like the non-binary gender and the political use of queerness in the 1980s and 1990s. So let's see how this went.
2 weeks later.
So it's been about a week and a half, 2 weeks since I started looking for other pansexuals to talk to, and finally I've been talking to her for a few days, and she said she wouldn't mind being interviewed, and I am just amazed and frankly very excited to interview her about her own experiences here in Amsterdam. The only other pan people I've met have been my own friends, and that's how I discovered what being pan was. So I just want to see how her experience differs from my own, and kind of the uniqueness that Amsterdam has brought into the experience. Yeah.
Things. Okay.
It's okay. Alright, start when you guys are ready.
Yes.
Okay, we're ready.
Yeah, the cars are not ready with me.
No. So why did you join Her?
Well, I joined the app to meet people, to talk to people and make new friends, and just see if I could vibe with someone, not in my area. Just to see if I could vibe with someone fun, something like that, actually.
Yeah. I actually joined it because it's kind of difficult to find gay people in my surroundings, so I just do it through the apps.
Have you had experiences in queer and gay spaces in Amsterdam?
Well, last year's gay pride.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm not avoiding it. Yeah.
Is it hard to find?
It's hard to find, yeah. Mostly I just meet gay people through the apps. That's really handy.
How did you find out what pansexuality was?
Well, I was actually struggling with my sexuality. At first I thought I was bisexual because I was like, okay, maybe I do like both. But I was like, no, I actually fall in love with someone due to their personality, their soul, their mindset. That's what I'm attracted to. I don't care what your background is or what your race is. That doesn't really, bother me. So I did some research, and then I found out what pansexuality pan was. And I was like, okay, then I do fit in this category. So that's how I came up with pansexual. Yeah.
Do your parents know about?
That was really awkward, by the way.
I kind of told my mom, but she was like, it's a phase. She doesn't really get the term. She's like, okay, I'll see you with a man, whatever. I'm like, okay, that's what you were saying, but you don't know what's gonna happen, you know? Yeah, it's crazy.
What kind of tension is there between pan and bi communities with the gay communities?
I think the gay community has more attention than the other two, because it's like, I don't know, like if you say that you're gay or whatever, people have this label and you like, you know, but it's like when you say you're bisexual, they're like, oh, you know, they're like, they kind of see it lightly than, you know, than the other one.
Yeah, they see like you can't choose or something.
Yeah.
That's mostly what they say.
Do you ever experience like gay people or lesbian people saying like they don't want to be with a bi or pan person because they have to pick one or the other? Okay.
Like, I guess, how would you feel dating a bi person or a pan person?
I give them the benefit of the doubt. There's a lot of bi people that cheat with, yeah, it's really bad. But
The opposite.
yeah, they cheat with the opposite gender a lot, like the people that I've met and stuff. But I mean, I'll trust you in the beginning, but if you ruin it, then it's over. It's that simple. Yeah, but I'm okay with it. Okay, it's about the person, not exactly their sexuality. So.
Falling short of actual people to interview on pansexual experience and social relationships, I decided to utilize the resources I had at hand, which was my own and my friend's experience on our study abroad trip being pan in Amsterdam. So what intrigued you most about coming to Amsterdam?
I think the idea that I can be myself here, I guess, as a queer person. I mostly wanted to come here because I am really interested in like sexual politics and things like that. But specifically related to like being queer, I think it was more of, I feel like I would be accepted here more than at home if I, you know, told people like, oh, I'm pan, even though they might not be incredibly accepting of it, they at least are probably a little bit more than at home. So I think that's one of the biggest things about being queer and coming here.
How do you think sexuality plays into being queer?
I don't think I'm 100% sure on what being queer really means, especially to me. But I think of it as being, you know, different. You know, I'm not straight. I don't fit into the straight mold. And I think one thing that plays into my personal queerness is like my own like gender identity, because I don't feel like I fit the perfect form and mold of what like a queer or pan or bi person is, and maybe queer I fit that more, but I think queer gives the opportunity to have expression that doesn't quite fit into the mold of like homosexual or bisexual or pansexual or even like a woman or a man. I think it gives opportunity to be different, and I think the fact that I'm not really sure 100% what my sexuality is, that puts me into queer, because it gives me a space to identify something when I don't have an identity yet.
Do you think internally identifying as pan has helped expand your ideas on gender?
Oh, definitely. The reason I identified as bisexual first is because I didn't know that intersex or non-binary or trans people existed when I came out when I was like 13, 14 years old. And then, the more I learned about people and gender and how that exists in the world, the more I could expand how I'm not just attracted to men or women because they're a man or a woman. I'm attracted to people in general. So I think that realization and that education helped play into the fact that I am pan.
So Ashley,
Yeah.
we went to a lesbian bar together here in Amsterdam. How did you feel in that space as a pansexual?
I think I even asked at first, I was like, will I be welcome in this space? Because, you know, I'm not a lesbian. I've been in one same-sex relationship. And so I was like, am I really going to be welcome in this space? And then Maddie said, like, no, you'll be fine. It's really welcoming. And as soon as I walked in, I felt kind of comforted. I'm not sure if it's like because of the lighting, but I think it was because it was such a place of non-judgment. You know, like, I don't like going into regular bars or clubs because I feel like I'm constantly being stared at and I'm constantly in fear of being assaulted or harmed in any sort of way. And I just felt so comfortable, but I don't know if that's necessarily because I'm a pan person. But I think I was definitely scared going into it because I wasn't sure, like, because am I gay enough? You know? Am I queer enough for this space?
Yeah, I felt that too. I definitely think that both of us read as femme. It was a much more comfortable space.
Right.
But I can't imagine, I don't know, I always had that fear, like, what if they come up and ask if I'm a lesbian and I have to say, like, no, I'm pan, or like, no, I'm bi, because I feel like there's such, like, a political stance that we feel comes along with lesbianism, which isn't to say it's a bad thing, but just sort of like we love women for a reason. How could you ever possibly love a man? Is kind of like, oh shit.
And I feel like there definitely is a lot of, you know, bi and panphobia with lesbians specifically, because they're like, how could you betray us? Like, how could you possibly sleep with a man? Like, I don't want somebody that's been with a man to be with me because they are so, like, I've experienced a lot of that where women are like, I can't be with you because you've been with a man before.
Yeah.
So.
I've also noticed in public spaces here, especially LG or queer spaces, everyone, it seems to be a lot older than us. There seems to be a real, like, age discrepancy. Did you feel that in the lesbian bar? Everyone was, like, over 35.
And people that we've talked to, you know, they've said, like, oh, the queer community for the youth have been, you know, they've been moving on to online spaces, so you're not really you're not finding that in physical spaces like a gay bar, a lesbian bar, or even clubs for that kind of stuff.
Yeah. It's also definitely, like, a lot harder to confront a person, like, face to face, like, what is your sexuality, whereas online, especially with meeting apps, dating apps, you can list your sexuality on there and also, like, your preferences and everything.
And I think when you're having that kind of interaction online, you don't have to fear physical repercussions. You know, like, if you ask somebody in person, like, what their sexuality is and they get offended by it, they might, like, hit you or slap you or start yelling and feel offended. Like, when you're online, there's no physical interaction and you don't have to worry about that rejection right in front of you. You get that elsewhere. Like, I mean, it's not as bad when it's online.
Yeah. Shortly after my interview with Ashley, I decided to visit an actual long-standing queer space in Amsterdam called the Wright. It started out as an anarchist squatter house and then transformed itself into a queer space where every Wednesday night you can go and get your queer self on. So tonight is queer night at the Wright, and me and a couple of my friends are going. I'm really excited to see kind of what the atmosphere is like in a queer space, especially for pansexuals. I'm hoping that it's a comfortable enough space for me to ask other people kind of about their sexuality, or if they're okay with opening up about it. I'm not quite sure how I'm gonna go about it. I went to vegan night at the Wright before queer night last Wednesday, but I didn't stick around for the club part because we had to go to Brussels super early in the morning. And it was super chill. I felt comfortable there, but not comfortable enough to go up and talk to people. I don't know if part of that was the vibe that, like, the space was giving me per se, or if it was more like, or if it was my crippling anxiety. So hopefully tonight will be better. I'm taking people that want to help me with this project, so we're all kind of going to be like feeling the space and trying to talk to people, but I'll let you know how it goes. It's 12:47. Just got back from the Wright. Not as many people as I thought from my group of classmates went as I thought was going to, but I still had an amazing time. I've been to straight bars, straight clubs, gay bars, gay clubs, lesbian bars, but nothing felt quite as liberating as going to the Wright. I can't put into words how amazing that experience was for me as someone in the queer community, not even just under my queer identifier of pansexual. You know, everyone there, while certainly done up in, you know, particular guises, like there was a burlesque show, so, you know, there was somebody dressed kind of like Elvis, different things like that, but in a way, they weren't performing, you know, they were just 100% them. It didn't matter what they looked like when they were dancing. They weren't dancing for anyone. A queer space is not for anyone but yourself and making the other people there feel safe. Me and the person I went with, we met these two amazing people who just danced with us, and through like just them not caring, like it gave us so much more self-assurance. I cannot say enough how much of a liberating moment that was. One of the people, they organized a open mic for non-binary and trans people for tomorrow night, and I think we're gonna go. I think what's so great about a queer space is it doesn't matter what part of the queer umbrella you're from. It's an act of solidarity to be there. So maybe I didn't meet other pansexuals, but I found more assurance in myself, and I feel more confident in changes that may occur in my life regarding my gender or sex, sexuality. While going to the Wright was a very liberating experience for me as a queer person, I was also very aware of the decline of spaces in Amsterdam exclusively for queer and lesbian and gay people. However, lesbian and gay people are very much tolerated and included in Dutch politics, whereas queer people are kind of brushed to the side. So I became more curious as to why lesbian and gay and queer places were facing spatial repercussions in society when they held very different spots in Dutch society's hierarchy. My name is Maddie. Do you want me to look at the camera? Sorry.
You can do whatever you're feeling.
Okay. My name is Maddie. I'm 19 years old. I am an MSU student studying abroad in Amsterdam, and I'm doing a research project on the disappearance of lesbian bars globally.
Alright, so first question, why have lesbian bars been disappearing in Amsterdam?
In Amsterdam specifically? Mm-hmm. Okay, so there was one bar that closed at the very beginning of July, and actually, luckily, it was just closed because the owner got old and was like, I want to retire, so she did. But historically, or I guess now, research-wise, there are a lot of different theories as to why lesbian bars are closing. So one of them is like the internet and the fact that like a lot of people are meeting partners online now. Another one is gentrification, which is more specific to lesbian bars and not just queer spaces in general, because a lot of lesbians are kind of being gentrified out of gay neighborhoods, and they're being more dominated by white gay men. And then there's other theories like that lesbian spaces now tend to be pretty bi and transphobic, and so bi people and trans people are being like, no, I'm not gonna
pay to be in your space when I know that you don't appreciate or that you don't validate my identity. So yeah.
Why are having specific spaces for gay people and for lesbians important?
Personally, I think it's important because, especially like right when I came out, it was a way that I could feel like I could be myself around people who were like me and learn about, I guess, gay culture and lesbian culture from people who had experienced the same things as me and gone through the same stuff that I went through. It's a way to build community, it's a way to organize for activism, and it's also a way to just decompress with the people around you that you feel comfortable with. So like in a straight bar, I often feel really uncomfortable because I'm always afraid that men are going to touch me or come on to me or something like that, especially because I am femme-red, so a lot of the times men will like assume that I'm straight, and I hate that so much. So in a lesbian space, I know that that wouldn't happen.
Now that the lesbian and gay movements are more ingrained into Dutch politics, do you think people's tolerance for lesbian and gay exclusive places has deteriorated?
Yes. I don't have very much concrete research done about that specifically, but yes, I think that there is a big problem with especially straight people assuming that, well, you can hold hands in my space now and we won't beat you up, and so therefore you should feel comfortable being in our space. You don't need a space of your own. It's kind of like the whole like separatism thing we talked about, like when integration happens, a lot of the times you lose the spaces that were once yours and also owned by you, which I think is really important. Like even if I was comfortable being in a straight space, I would still feel bad because I'm not. Like most people that own straight bars are straight people and a lot of the time straight men, and I want to, you know, support my ladies and be ladies together.
And so while lesbian and gay spaces deteriorate because of their political inclusion in Dutch society, queer spaces have deteriorated for the opposite reason, because of their refusal to assimilate. The refusal to assimilate or conform to Dutch society is another reason why bisexuality and pansexuality and other queer sexualities weren't so heavily included in gay pride, and it is known as gay pride. Because while being included in a society sure does have its benefits, there's also unknown and unexplored benefits of denying the system, of denying assimilation, and that is the basis of being queer, of being pan, of being bisexual. It's operating outside of these systems that we are told to conform to. So while not many spaces exist physically for the expression of sexuality and gender outside of these systems that formed gender and sexuality, it can be argued that the internet, with its gray legal standing, is a place to operate outside of these oppressive systems in a way to liberate not just pan people, not just bi people, not just queer people, but all people. While realizing these liberating aspects of having a queer and transient identity with my pansexuality, it's also important that in finding limitless space online, we not forget the oppression faced when we log off of our computers, because no one is going to give or include us in spaces. We have to create them. A powerful way to do so is in the words we use. Words, a key way of communication, where power can be created and destroyed, because words are actions.
Today was the Pride Walk in Amsterdam, the kickoff to Pride Week in the Netherlands. And it was my first ever Pride event, ever. Not even just in the LGBT plus community, but also just like in life. You know, I grew up in a very small town in Michigan, so Pride events were not exactly there because being gay, being anything other than a man or a woman is not exactly seen as a good practice or really just accepted in any sense. So I went to the Pride Walk, and it was super awesome seeing people there loving freely and just being happy. And I saw a bunch of asexual flags, I saw a bunch of bisexual flags, I saw a bunch of rainbow flags, I saw a rainbow flag for deaf people, I saw drag queens, I saw everything, you know? But I didn't see anything for pansexuality. Not a flag, not a mention in any of the speeches. The only thing I saw was this person had a hat on and a pin on it that said pansexual or something of the matter. I didn't quite get close enough to see what it was. All I really noticed was a conversation that was happening where somebody was like, oh, what does pansexual mean? And the person was like, oh, it means I'm not just attracted to men or women, you know, I'm attracted to everyone. It really matters what kind of person they are versus their gender identity or their sexual orientation or their race or anything. Pan exists outside of it and despite the binary. So that's really all I heard about it. And while I was sad that there were no actual pan flags there or any mentions of it in any way whatsoever besides that small, you know, that small chat. Okay. There weren't any mentions of it besides that small chat. It felt nice hearing that chat because not only did I know that there was someone else out there, but that after that day another person would know what it was and what it meant.
And so now we can move back to the beginning of this documentary. Backwards, forwards, doesn't really matter. I put in this canal because look at them go for. Look at those dancers. Yeah, get it. All right. Anyway, now we can go backwards to the beginning and know how to move forward. Not how to look for validation in other people's, but ourselves moving forward, not just as pansexual, not just as queer, but as KP. Because I'm ready to be me. Now the question is, are you?